Right, hopefully, am I all right standing out in front of that microphone?
No, yeah.
I hate these things. I hate these things with a passion.
See what I mean about teachers?
Exactly, sorry. Yeah, so I'm afraid I was a teacher. We were talking earlier with some other people. I used to be a physics teacher. There aren't very many physics teachers actually around in the country. And it's just one of those things, always worth looking around. When you say physics teacher, you can tell the kind of room you're in, because it's full of engineers, people's eyes light up. If it's full of mathematicians, you kind of get a fairly steady gaze. But if you're actually full of people who come from the arts background, you can immediately see it. And that's it. And the fact that we're now after lunch means it usually gets quite a lot worse. So, I've managed to get myself the after lunch slot. And I find myself surrounded by these great giants of business who've got such amazing success stories to talk about, from having been involved with this fine gentleman and his organisation for 25 years and all the rest of it to deliver such amazing results. It would be really nice to say that we were in that same category, but we're not. So what this session is actually going to be about is really, I suppose, a story from somebody who is in the midst of trying to make this happen. In fact, really still quite in the early days of trying to make this happen. So I'm hoping, kind of just what I thought I might try and get out of this, I suppose I'm really going to be talking to a lot of the people who are just kind of dipping their toe in, or just starting to think their way through what this might be about, what you might get out of it and things like that. It could be a bit up in the air, we'll see how it actually goes, but what I'd like to think is that you might get something out of this session that actually we've done something. If you can get something out of it that makes sense to you, then that'll be some real value. So, I just put a why, a what, and a how up there. I thought it would be a good idea to look at why we actually engaged Breeze to help us. I thought it might be quite interesting to have a look at what we've done to date. And then finally start talking about what are some of the benefits that we're actually starting to see from the collaboration. And it really is about what we've actually seen to date, because I think we're still only very much scratching the surface in an evolving business, in an evolving market. So we're just starting to find out, I suppose, really what the potential is, rather than actually starting even to recognise some of that potential. Right, start off with the why question. Why do we actually do it? Well, to do that, I'm going to bore you a little bit about our market. Now, I know there are some people here already who work within the education space and actually know quite a bit about it. It's one of the really strange things is when you actually, because when you work in the education market, it's one of those very, very few areas that everybody actually knows an awful lot about, because everybody has actually been to school. And what makes it a little bit more difficult, looking at the amazingly successful and talented group of people we've got here, actually you're the people that have succeeded in that market. Okay? So you're the successful product of the world of education. So actually you're likely to be influenced slightly in your views about what I'm going to be saying by the fact that you can think, well, it did all right by me, you can't understand what the problem is and all the rest of it. But bear that in mind and we'll actually see where we go. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about our market. Move on there to tell you something about us and why we're kind of in that market, and then we'll move on to talk about some of the challenges that we were facing, which led us to go and knock on this gentleman's door and drink his coffee and wine and stuff. Right, a bit about our market. I'll throw this up there. Would anybody like to put a date on this picture?
1962.
Almost spot on. Are you there? Right. I thought it was worth chucking this up. I thought, well, let's try and pick an era when possibly some of the people were at school. This is obviously long before I actually went to secondary school. But I thought it was quite worthwhile putting up there. That's not an untypical picture of a secondary school classroom. We've obviously got, I think the glasses of the teacher are the bit that really kind of give a lot of it away. But the reason why I wanted to put that up there is actually just to compare it and contrast it with a second picture, which is actually taken off quite a recent, off a website. So I think it's one of the government ones. But this is actually a picture down the bottom there that the government have put together to say this is part of the whole discussion about what we mean by transforming public services and delivering a whole new kind of education and things like that. Now, if I just point out a few little bits to you, I'm wandering off microphone. as you can see, our teacher here is standing there with our arm at the board, demonstrating very nicely what this is about. And obviously, in the vision for what schools need to be about in the future, in these transformed public services, we've got a teacher standing at the front with his arm up there, waving at a board. Okay? The only difference is the technology that the teacher is actually accessing. And it was really interesting. It was in the, was it in your presentation, or was it the show on, where somebody actually said that people are actually saying what they're going to be investing in is almost nothing as far as new technology is concerned. Really interesting, because what the government's saying is that if we want to transform this public service, we've got to invest in projectors and we've got to invest in interactive whiteboards so that our technicians, the teachers, can actually stand in front of them in exactly the same way in which they always did. You'll also notice we've got an arm in the air here of a pupil who's particularly keen, and you'll see we've got, can't see it from here. Yeah, there we are. There's an arm in the air. Now, the only difference is that we've stopped using our right arm, and we're now allowed to use our left hand to put it actually in the air. Okay? I think this is really quite interesting, because one of the things in our market, people talk in our market all the time about transforming. And there's a lot of money and there's a lot of effort going in to try to say, let's change the public service, let's do all the rest of it. But actually, fundamentally, nothing is actually happening to really change things. Bit scary, that, isn't it? 40-odd years. Just take the story a little bit further. We're going to get a bit personal now. I'd like to introduce you to my good lady wife. She's the one on top of the big round thing. Reason for putting that up there, that's actually her back in November. We went out to Gozo. Lovely place, Gozo. Thoroughly recommend it if anybody wants to have a nice, quiet, peaceful holiday. That was when she was still relatively happy. We actually came back, and the letter came having had a breast screening. And she had to go in there, found that she had very early stage of breast cancer. And had to go into hospital, have surgery, things like that. Okay, that's all very serious. All fine at the end. The surgery's happened and all the tests, everything's fine. But one of the things that absolutely struck me smack between the eyes was she's amazing diagnostic testing. Picked it up before there was actually anything wrong. She wasn't aware of anything going on. The process she actually went through to fix the problem, bang, 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 bang. Remarkably high success rates. Amazing things. And I sat there and thought, what would have happened if this was actually the education system? Testing doesn't work. System, well, you kind of got one size fits all. You go through it. It's called a primary school, a secondary school, all the rest of it. And, well, you might get out at the end of it. If you're lucky, you might not. And that just kind of, again, focused me on this whole market that we're involved in, is the fact that it's a market that actually is still way, way, way back there saying, excuse me, the world in which we live in has moved on. Some figures for you and some statements. This is just what I just went onto a website and I just pulled up the Daily Telegraph from January, and I thought I'd just share some of these bits with you. 344,000 children missed out on 5 good grades, including the key subjects of English and mathematics. 344,000. Now, just think about it. Those of you who don't deal in this world all the time, 5 GCSEs, including English and maths, is kind of the standard if you want to go on and do anything in life. Yeah? If you really want to be able to engage in business, in commerce, move forwards, the chances are you're going to have that kind of level of qualification. 344,000 people didn't get it. Think about what's going to happen to that particular group of people. 21% of teenagers left state and independent schools without a single grade C GCSE. 1 in 7 state secondary schools is falling short of vital targets. You can see some of the rest of it. I like the one at the end. This is no time for excuses. I want every child to go to a good school, and that means every school getting above 30%. I have to sort of nod to the founder of our company, whose his name is Whittle, so he gets very enthusiastic about anything to do with aircraft. And he says, so if you were going to book a flight and they said, yes, sir, we'd like to have your business and you've got a 30% chance of actually getting to your destination intact, I think you might be a little bit worried. And again, thinking back to my wife and the stuff she's gone through, you think about that kind of thing. So we've got an education market which is actually sort of a bit scary at the moment. What else do we say about our market? Well, the government are certainly involved in it. It's very political. And the media really quite enjoy it as well. So a little bit more about those things. A bit about government. I've been talking to colleagues from Tribal about government